Hey, welcome back to the What If Universe, where we're back interviewing content creators after my really long hiatus. And not really per se that I haven't been trying to, it's just that there's a lot of stuff that comes up when booking people, scheduling, whatnot. But for today, we have manga adventures. Would you like to introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? Like you said, I'm Manga Adventures. Pleasure to be on the channel. Thanks for having me.
So, to start things off, sometimes I like to ask people this question: what does your channel name mean to you?
My channel name is interesting because I originally wanted to be a Pokemon slash Digimon channel. So my original name was Digital Pocket, the digital from Digital Monsters and the Pocket from Pocket Monsters. But that name was already taken on YouTube, so I named it Manga Adventures off the Pokemon manga. So it's manga, as we all know, and adventures from Pokemon Adventures, and that's basically it. That's why my avatar itself is actually based off the guy you talk to when you first enter a gym. If you look at it, so my YouTube channel is very Pokemon focused, which is why I got the name Manga Adventures.
That's fair enough. I guess my name's relatively straightforward as far as what content I do and whatnot at this point. So,
Yeah, I could have changed my channel name if I wanted to, but I'm happy sticking with Manga Adventures. Nobody could piece together that would have been a Pokemon focused thing.
oh yeah, I did want to talk about one thing that some people here might not know about the brief time you did editing for my channel. You might talk about that for a little bit.
Uh, yeah, I remember I was just starting out, and then I saw on your community tab you needed help editing, and I thought that would be a good way to build relations with people in the What If community. And then, yeah, I just hit you up. You hit me back fairly quickly, and yeah, you taught me some things like how to edit audio to make it sound better, and how to. A lot of people don't know this, but some renders have like a black box behind them that are in some of them, and you taught me how to get rid of that. And yeah, it was very helpful, and I still use what you taught me to this day. So yeah, I really am glad I edited for you for a little while. Just to learn some of the basic stuff. I'm not really a fan of editing like you are because I feel like editing takes way too long, and I feel like my channel is a storytelling channel above all else. So I feel like most people who watch like what ifs, it's just me personally. I feel like most people who watch what ifs are just listening to what ifs. They're not even like looking at the screen when they're watching it. So I just feel like editing is one of the things that I could take the biggest shortcut because it always takes so long making YouTube videos. And even with the simple editing I do, it still takes a long time, for my personal opinion. Long time in the sense that I don't have much time to do YouTube and whatnot. So as quick as I get a YouTube video done, the better, because I think people complain if you take too long for making a YouTube video.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think as far as editing itself for what ifs, I think there's what I like to call the ceiling. So there's channels that will push the limit, but I do think though there has been consequences of that because when you up your standard that high and you can't keep with it, you have an audience that expects something. I think when I was telling you with editing, I was basically saying like you kind of just need a basic amount there to keep the viewers around. Like if you want to get better, you can, but that's not really as necessary in this space, in my personal opinion. It's more about your actual writing talent that seems to prevail, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And a lot of people think the editing has to be the ceiling, but then you have the objectively biggest what if YouTuber Masako X, who just records his face and puts up a commission art piece every now and then. And his what ifs get a lot. And I know a lot of people don't like Goku T23, but he is also a what if YouTuber with over 100,000 subscribers. And he also just has the background and just talks over the background. He still gets views. He still gets a lot of likes. So I feel like if you want to put editing at a higher tier, you can, especially if you enjoy editing. But I do think editing should be at the very bottom of your priorities in making what ifs.
Yeah, 'cause it's more like you're trying to produce like a higher effort like audiobook. So it's really just your audio and what you're trying to tell people what matters more in
Yeah,
context.
that is the perfect way. That's honestly what you're saying is honestly how I view what if. So I'm glad we think alike about that because I always thought I was crazy. Because I remember back when what ifs were popular back during COVID, everyone would make these like what if servers full of, what if YouTubers and whatnot. And everyone would always kind of weirdly brag that they took like 5-6 hours editing like just the video itself, not even the audio, 5-6 hours just editing the video itself. And I wouldn't comment because I think that's kind of ridiculous. And then their video is only like 8 minutes long. And I don't know, I always thought the average what if YouTuber thought that editing was the most important thing. So I'm glad I'm not crazy thinking that editing is the bottom of it, the visual editing.
Like to me, editing is the last thing you want to get good at, and that's usually where I see channels like go up from there. If they're trying to go like for full time, basically.
Yeah.
Like the alternatives, you outsource your stuff to other people, which I know a couple of channels I used to edit for and still do occasionally. Like that's what they do. They just outsource aspects
Yeah.
of their channel just to get stuff done because either they rose the ceiling where they have to do it or they just do it for productivity purposes, which that's fine. That's what any like job or any skill that involves like a group of people, like making a movie, it's not just one person, it's like a lot of people, and that's basically how it's treated once you reach a certain point, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. I really do think if you do YouTube full time, I feel like it's more productive and, you know, to outsource someone and just pay someone who is very good at editing, who does a very consistent job to do it for you. I feel like that is the best thing to do. But the threshold for that outsource, I feel like varies from person to person.
Oh
Because
yeah, there was people who like laughed at me. It's like, oh, you're charging $7 per minute. It's like I'm one of the higher tier people that does edit what if videos. Really, like
yeah,
there's other
yeah,
people I know, but it's like usually they're relegated to like specific channels. They don't usually edit for other people typically.
yeah, and I feel like people don't understand how expensive an editor could be, and they like start off and they're not making any money, and they try to hire an editor, and it's very shocking how much it would cost to hire one. So I do think you should be a relatively big channel with a relatively good source of income on YouTube before you even think about hiring an editor, unless you just have disposable income from your regular 9 to 5.
Yeah,
So
there's people that I edit that do that. They're just using their disposable because they want to make YouTube a longer time thing, which I think is a good thing if that's
yeah,
the route you want to go. Because you really won't make it up much higher unless you can get more productivity, and that's the best way to do it without like ruining your own social life and time.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely the YouTube social life balance is the hardest thing to do and that's why a lot of people quit that, and they feel like they're not getting as high as they should be at a certain point. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people quit because you really do have to upload every week, or people would just be like, not only with the algorithm basically forget about you, but your community and the occasional viewers who aren't subscribed that watch your stuff will also forget about you as well. So it's definitely you got to upload a lot,
I
which
wouldn't
is why.
say it's that anymore, in my opinion. Like, there's two routes. You can do the traditional route that you're talking about, but the new route that I've seen, which what if channels haven't done this, but I think they will in the future for some of them, is basically have the entire story done and just do one big video in 1 month. Because you'll make up the difference in like ad revenue and such, basically.
Do you think you will? I feel like that's a risky in the sense that, like, and I agree that is one way to do it, most definitely. But
Well,
I
you've
agree.
seen like all these video essay channels that do like multi-hour stuff. Like, what if
Yeah,
channels
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
theoretically
But
do this?
I feel like a lot of people don't realize, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize how many people are throwing their hat in the YouTube ring, and how lucky you have to get to pop off in a sense. Because
No,
I feel
that
like
is true. I will say
most,
that.
I feel like most of the what if YouTubers are very lucky in a sense, excluding like Masako X, who had a following from being the voice actor for Dragon Ball TFS. He had a little starting, but it wasn't really. I'm not even gonna like say his hard work didn't pay off, because it wasn't really like all because he was the voice actor for Goku. Most of his community is because he makes what ifs.
I mean, to be
But
fair, he has done a lot of other non what if content before that for his channel, I'm pretty sure, from following it. Like,
yeah,
he
yeah,
had like
yeah, yeah. But
discussion videos at the start, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah, the what ifs really like blew up his channel,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I feel like, so multiple parts have, I feel like, two functions in my personal opinion. The first function is, like I said previously, you get to have a video every week, and you get to like stay in the good graces of the algorithm. And the second function is you get to see what ideas are popular with people. That's why I've dropped a lot of my older videos, because I would try to, do a new idea if I'm getting a little fatigue from a previous idea, just to spice things up. And then let's say I do what if Goku turns Super Saiyan against Vegeta, and that video only does a 1,000 views for like the week it's up. But if I do what if Piccolo learned the Kaioken, and that does 10,000 views for its like part one, I'm gonna focus on that, and there's a strong possibility that the what if Goku one would just be a unfinished what if, because it's clear that the people want the Piccolo what if more, if that makes sense. Because I feel like if you just throw out content, there is a possibility you won't get the subscribers and views that you're looking for. If that's what you care about. If all you care about, if you just see this as a hobby and just want to upload it whenever, that's great. That's fine. But if you are solely looking to grow, I recommend doing different parts to see what people are really feeling for. And if you do a part that people feel for, see like the pattern for it. That's if you're trying to grow, and if you're not just doing this as some sort of hobby, if that makes sense. Will people one day just put their full stories up and nothing else because that gets the most views? Probably. But I feel like the latter is a better way to see what people are enjoying. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying, like, that is understandable from that point, but at the same time, like, if you think you have a good enough story, I think it's worth that gamble. We just haven't seen someone in our space try that yet, is the thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like there have been people who have tried it, probably like smaller channels,
Well, I've
because
seen, like, Karthu do, like, one-off videos, but not to the scale of
no,
what
no,
I'm
no. I know
thinking.
what you're talking about. You're talking about the bigger people haven't tried it, because I think the bigger
'Cause they
people
have the
like
money,
to
I know
have
that.
a
They could do it
schedule.
theoretically.
Yeah, but they like to have a schedule, and I feel like for these big what if YouTubers that do see this as a 9 to 5, I feel like they do like to have a schedule of sorts of uploading, and they don't want to upload once a month unless it's like a really big deal. But for like I was trying to say, smaller channels, I've definitely seen people who just put their full story out there on like channels with less than 1,000. So I'm not gonna say it hasn't been done before, but I will say bigger what if YouTube channels
Well,
haven't
I'm
done it,
talking about
and who
editing, like,
knows?
everything, like, production value is what I'm talking about. Like, I've seen people post basically long videos like you're describing, but not to the quality is my thing. Like, of these, like, video essay stuff, which in my opinion are, like, less heavy compared to, like, what if videos. Theoretically, you could do a lot of corner cutting with what ifs, actually.
Yeah, you can do a lot of code cuttings with what ifs, and I feel like video essays are. I feel like video essays just require a lot of information to be shown on screen to prove your point.
Well, the thing is, if you actually do it, you have to actually put research in it. Like, I know there's a lot
Yeah,
of plagiarists that
definitely.
were called out recently, but at the same
Eh,
time, if you're doing like that, I feel like that's more difficult in some aspects because you have to fact check yourself, make sure it's accurate enough.
Yeah, you
Versus
have
like
to
a what
cite your
if, like,
sources.
well, you gotta worry about like grammar, just make sure the story makes sense. Like,
Nah, you gotta fact check yourself for what ifs. There are a lot of I see it on my channel a lot. There are a lot of Dragon Ball purists who will try to correct you every chance you get on the lore of Dragon Ball, and 9 times out of 10, I'm not saying I'm always right, but the people who try to fact check me are usually wrong what they're talking about. I remember one dude said Goku had gained infinite nature energy entering the other world, and that's why he could use Super Saiyan 3 longer. And I was all like, where does it say that? And then, they would get mad and say, well, I can't find it. But I was like, yeah, you can't find it because it never say that. So there are a lot of people who'd be like, oh, that's not true. Oh, that's not right. Oh, this, that, and the third for like what ifs. And yeah, you can ignore those, but I feel like you can ignore like any like sense of, oh, you don't know what you're talking about in any space, if that makes sense.
well, I think with some of those people, I'd say like, why won't you just go back to the original source material? Like, if you actually care about it in some sense, because a lot of it is like if they go back to it, like
Yeah.
is it the original Z dub? Is it the uncut version? Is it Kai? Like there's so much stuff, especially with Dragon Ball, where dubs just add random stuff
Oh yeah.
that wasn't there
Dub
originally.
adds random stuff, takes away original context, and then don't get me started about like I feel like even in the Japanese version, it doesn't really stick true to the manga at all.
Well, yeah, you got
So
filler and stuff too if we're considering like original Z, which a lot of people that's usually their first one. Like
yeah,
unless they started with Kai or something else, like
yeah. So I get what you're saying. You'd be like, oh, just watch the original. But my point is, people are gonna say, "What are you talking about?" Even if you are right about something.
that happens all the time. I did want to ask, would you recommend people to find a mentor before making content? Do you think that helped a lot?
Um, I wouldn't say bother anybody if someone asked for like help, like you did. That
Yeah,
would be
I would agree.
fine.
Not just bother like Carthu or like mega channels.
Yeah,
Like look for people who actually need help for stuff, know what they're
yeah.
doing.
And honestly, I feel like if you have the incentive, you can look at a lot of things up because Google is really powerful. And if you just know what you're Googling for and know how to word things and look up certain YouTube videos, I feel like you can get past that threshold without a teacher, even if it is a little harder to understand if you don't get it.
I mean, that's what my journey basically was. I was inspired from a different channel, but I did all the manual stuff myself, basically.
Yeah. So I feel like you don't need one, and who knows, you could be a quick learner and don't need to be explained different things if you don't get it. But if you're not, it just may take a little longer to figure some stuff out. So I don't think you need one. If someone does want help and you just want the experience and also to get to know someone, that would be great. But yeah, Google is a powerful thing.
I did want to ask, are there any other people in the community you were inspired from? Or, like,
I
today?
was inspired to start Dragon Ball What Ifs from Carthu, but not from his because a lot of people say, "Oh, Carthu knows so much about Dragon Ball. His stuff seems so accurate and whatnot." I was mainly inspired by his "What if Carthu was in Dragon Ball" video, which is basically the fanfickiest what if he has on his channel,
Oh,
involving
yeah.
what if
I
what
mean,
happened to the humans from Universe 6,
yeah.
basically. And I just enjoyed it so much. I was like, all right, my channel could be about anything. Let me just try a what if. And my first was like, what if Gohan turned Super Saiyan God, which is basically a Dragon Ball Super rewrite because I didn't agree with a lot of things on Dragon Ball Super personally, and I didn't agree how the Buu saga worked for the most part, but I feel like everyone has those gripes. So I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring about rewriting the series, and I just named it What If Gohan Turned Super Saiyan God because I thought that was a very nice title.
I think the saga is interesting for me because it feels like Toriyama going back to form, it felt like. And it felt
Yeah,
like he was
yeah,
less restricted, but at consequence, the story does get a little bit out of place, but that's just how his writing style was.
of
Like, he always
course.
said he wrote off the seam of his pants type of deal.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I completely enjoy. I was talking to a friend about who doesn't like Akira's off the seam writing too much because it leaves a lot of um basically it leaves a lot of he forgot what happened and kind of retcons himself, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. So it gets all over the place. But I like his writing because it's so spontaneous. Like the retcon of Goku being a Saiyan. Nobody thought he was an alien. I mean, kids nowadays, or people nowadays, even adults nowadays, start with Z. So they've always seen Goku as a Saiyan, but I'm pretty sure back in the day, for people who watched Dragon Ball, it was like out of left field that Goku became an alien from another planet. And then when we get to the, Android saga, we go from aliens to an arc inspired by the Terminator movie that he enjoyed with time travel and androids. And all this is just like week by week. And I truly enjoyed his spontaneous nature, but I do feel like for a more serialized story, he did need a strict editor like he had with the Frieza saga and halfway through the Cell saga to keep his creativity in line in a sense. Because yes, he's very creative. Yes, he comes up with very fun ideas. But if you let those fun ideas run wild, it gets non-coherent in a way. You feel me?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that from from my perspective, the best like written what ifs I've done usually involved another person. There hasn't been one that I personally think that I did by myself that's that great. In all honesty,
Nah, I feel like I do feel like I did enjoy because I don't know how often you do what ifs now, but I did enjoy the what ifs with just you by yourself or just you know, and I could definitely tell what part of the what if you wrote in a story, which says a lot about your writing style and whatnot. But I feel like when it comes to collabs, it's a lot of, at least for me, and maybe I'm just headstrong, but when it comes to collabs, it's not so much two people working together, but one person doing one story and another person doing another story. And you know, I've tried
I
to do
feel like
collabs.
that depends who you're collabing with, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. It depends on who you're collabing with.
Like,
But I've tried to collab with some of the people you collabed with, and it was very much we have two different ideas on how the story would take place. So we can't. It's either so with my
to be fair, we directly haven't collabed, so you probably had different experiences where I had.
no, not with you, but with people with you, like people you've collabed with. I've tried to.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah. And I feel like we have two different ideas of how the story would take place, and we can't agree on anything. But a lot of the times, I feel like for a lot of what ifs, it's we can't even agree on an idea we both think sounds interesting. I don't know if you've had that problem, but it's like you throw out an idea, like what if Goku kept his tail or something like that, and the person you're trying to collab with is like, I don't think that's a good idea. And then you try to like pitch the idea and they still don't like it. So it's just a bunch of people not liking the idea. So I don't know if
Like I
you've ever
said,
had.
I think it's more like who you chose to collab with. Like, I think the interesting one I had is the what if Martians were in Dragon Ball? I'm doing Professor Champ because the angle we took it is that I'm doing more of like the darker side of the story, which I normally don't do for some
Yeah,
aspects. And he's throwing in the jokes to make it feel like how it should feel because we're doing early Dragon Ball, so it has to still have comedy elements and stuff and
yeah,
not get way too serious. But my idea was that since I wanted to cover a slightly heavier topic and make it feel more closer to Z, that's why it's written so differently. But at the same time, you gotta throw in jokes. Like, for example, like there's a point where Goku and Bulma are trying to find like Korin's tower.
yeah,
And there's a joke that I threw in where Yamcha gives them directions to Muscle Tower. And because Goku's stronger in the story, he's actually able to just take on Muscle Tower like way earlier than he should normally do it. And Yamcha just feels bad by the time he catches up. It's
yeah,
like, oh man, I gave him directions to the wrong tower. It's like, that sounds like something theoretically realistic like Toriyama would do, is have a character give wrong directions. It just goes to like a little fun adventure thing.
yeah. I understand. Like you split up the story in a very even way, but you've never pitched an idea to someone and they say, I don't like that idea. Can we come up with something else? That has never happened to you.
I've come up with that maybe once or twice, like with something like Dragon Star, but we usually come up with something that
It's
we
funny. Dragon Star
what?
was who I was talking about.
No, that's funny because think about this concept. I pitched the idea of Chi Chi like dying because of giving birth to Gohan, and at first he wasn't 100% on board an idea. So I told him, it's like, what if it's a redemption arc for Raditz because he also lost his parents, and he was on board with the idea. And
Yeah,
that's where the comedy comes from because Raditz is like, oh, I feel bad for kidnapping this kid. He lost his mom. It just
definitely.
changes his
And
character.
that was one of your more popular what ifs, and that was a very interesting what if. How far did you think you were gonna get with Goku staying I mean, Chi-Chi dead, so no Goten. Did you view it as a Gohan just becomes a fighter, or did you think you were gonna take it in a different direction? Like, were you just solely gonna make Gohan a fighter? Were you going to? Did you plan on hooking like from the start? Where were you going in that direction? Because I'm
I
curious
think
your mindset.
so. We do still have plans to finish it. We did have two other parts recorded before I went on my hiatus, but
Yeah,
we'll probably just have to redo it, most likely. Who knows if the files are still around, but the idea was like this odd redemption story partly for Raditz because he's been like destroying planets kind of like his whole life, like
yeah,
warping his character, but also using Gohan as like part of the catalyst for that. Because original Dragon Ball still happens the same because Chi-Chi was still alive, so you don't have to cover that.
yeah,
And part of it's like Goku trying to be like a father figure, like actually trying to raise his kid, which I think a lot of people kind of ignore that aspect of how this what if's supposed to work. That's
yeah.
the point.
That me personally, that would be the more fun part of. Although people love their power levels, I really do like seeing where the story would take someone like character wise and how Goku would change as a father for a story like that. Which is why I asked the question: what were you really thinking when you first made it?
Because that was the idea. It's like there really isn't anywhere else you would be able to take the story.
Yeah,
Like, yes, this title sounds like a joke, and people still ask like cartoon like Smugstick doing. There's like no, which is really funny in context. Because I think we were like memed like on Twitter, like someone tweeted like part 3 or something. People are like, "What is this?"
yeah, that sounds funny. Another one of your what ifs that I really want to see your mindset about and how far did you think you can get with it is what if Goku stays single? How far did you think you can get with the story like that with
I,
Goku with basically no Gohan in Z? Like how
I
far?
I feel like if I kept it up, I think I could have gotten to the end because it kind of devolves itself halfway into like a joke series
Yeah,
of him just being single and just like focusing on like training and like other stuff. Like a lot of stuff still happens as in canon for the most part,
yeah,
but I think realistically, if I were to end it off, I probably would have ended it like at Tournament of Power because
uh
a
huh,
lot of people, unfortunately, in Dragon Ball just don't read the manga, and even
yeah,
like Smugstick himself has said like he kind of just wants to not continue forward, and even other channels had this issue, which like it's telling like without super airing or so people just don't know who these characters are, and it just creates like media literacy problem. It feels like.
yeah. But I feel like the manga is good for what ifers in the sense of although people don't read the manga, I feel like a what if Goku completed Yardrat training is a good what if because I'm pretty sure it's something people were thinking about, but now if you read the manga, you know what that like goes up to. So it makes for a very interesting what if, even if you haven't read the manga. So I feel like there are a lot of like ideas for the manga that you could use, even if people haven't read it, because the seeds were planted in early Z or in the super anime of it. So, although yeah, if you want to stop at the tournament of power, you can, but I feel like you can like pluck some ideas from after that point in the story, if that makes sense.
I, yeah, I can kind of get that. I'm just noticing like it's more of a recent trend. Like what ifs end a lot sooner than they used to, just to either get to the end or they just feel like they can't cover more of the scenario at the time. It feels like.
I know one person who still does very lengthy what ifs, and that's Masako X. He still does his like 20 parters, and because he really dives deep into the story aspect of it, and he loves his character voices, and he loves just making real long stories. So I feel like he's one of the people that go past the Tournament of Power and so on and so forth. And I feel like a lot of what if YouTubers, if they have an excuse not to continue past a point that nobody's reading, they won't go past that point.
Oh yeah, I can understand that. I think it is what it is at this point. Like, the funnier thing is like Dragon Ball what ifs typically go longer these days because I feel like with other series, a lot of them just kind of dropped off a bit. It feels like, at least as far as
I've never
number, it feels
really,
like.
I've never really, I've thought about doing Naruto what ifs, but I don't know enough about it, and I know at least a little about Dragon Ball to make what ifs on the story, and I still get critiqued. Whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. So I can only imagine if I tried to do like a Naruto what if and I didn't know what I was talking about. Like it would just be a headache of people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. So I never thought of doing it. So I never peeped the other what if communities. Yeah, I don't really even know if they're like dying off or not. I know Naruto what ifs are popular, and
I
My
will say
Hero what ifs.
Pokemon's the new one right now.
Pokemon what ifs, I feel like, and I enjoyed Pokemon what ifs. I feel like Pokemon what ifs are large in quantity, but not like really large in views. I feel like the biggest Pokemon what if is from a Pokemon channel that wasn't even like doing what ifs. He just did it for fun. Like, what if Ash woke up on time? And that just kind of blew up people's interest in making Pokemon what ifs.
I
But
think
I
there's
don't.
one about James's marriage. It's like a million something views.
Oh, really? Oh, I need to look that up because that sounds hilarious. Is it like what if James stayed married or something?
I'm trying to find. Yeah, it's. Oh wait, never mind. It's what if James never got engaged? I got
Okay,
the
okay,
name
I see
wrong.
it. I see it. Oh,
But
that's
it's
hilarious.
1.5 million views. Like,
Yeah, I
this
see
is
it.
probably the biggest what if video I personally seen that actually has like pretty good editing. In all honesty, and this is typically a format people use. They use clips from a show. They have like a nice little
I could,
overlay. I like the editing style of
I,
Pokemon what ifs, honestly.
I could never do that. I'm too scared of getting copyright. I am too scared of getting copyrighted claim because I tried to review the new chapter of Dragon Ball Super Chapter 101 when it first came out. I got struck by Shueisha almost immediately. And even before then, I was all like, I'm not sure if I should use clips from the anime because I don't know how, the editing would be. So I am just way too scared to like edit anime clips in my videos because I just don't know the threshold for it. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm
why
gonna be
I
honest. The best way to do that, you just have to. You actually have to put a lot more effort into that, which I've learned from editing for other channels. Like, that's just how you have to do it.
is there like a time limit for I've heard like the 4 to 6 second rule, like 4 to 6 seconds of a video up and then you fucking take it down and then like for like reaction channels or something. When they're reacting to something, they have like a clip for like 4 to 6 seconds. The video is still playing, but they turn off the video itself, keep the audio on, and then pop the video back up and do that back and forth. Is that how the editing works? As long as it's not like continuous seconds of the same episode, do they have
Uh,
to be edited? Like I never understood it, and I'm definitely not gonna risk it because
oh,
I'm not gonna mess up and get another strike because I still have a strike from that Dragon Ball chapter. That was just a short. And if you get 3 strikes, your channel is terminated.
I'm
So
surprised it hasn't lifted yet at this point.
yeah, it lasts for I think a strike lasts for like days. Like not days, months. I think a strike on your
I thought it was like
channel.
90 days, so that would just be like 3 months. I'm pretty sure.
I could just honestly, I could just look up to see when I made the video and when I got struck, and because if I go to my YouTube student, I still got 1 out of 3, and I made that short January. So
Yeah, so you have a couple.
yeah, I made that
You have
short.
a little bit
January.
probably this month, and it'll expire, I think.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I'm not taking no risk, and I've always been scared because I don't know if you remember that whole Shueisha strike thing where they were taking out channels much bigger than me and
So,
much smaller
so
than me.
I
All
wasn't for the Shueisha situation. That's closer to like Anime Sage. I was around when the massive Toei strike was going on, Toei not Mark, because there was like a Discord of us, like maybe 50 something people that were
yeah,
being affected by the time.
I thought the Shueisha stuff hit like
The Shueisha thing was a different scenario, but yeah, it was still a big deal when
yeah,
it
because
happened.
wasn't like I know totally my Mark was hit with the Toei stuff, and that's
Yeah,
why a lot of eyes were
that's
on it
what I
because
was
it was a
around
big
for, because
channel.
that's when
But weren't you
Salisayan and
friends with?
Saljin went
I
down.
thought Salad Saiyan was hit with the Shueisha strike. That's why his
No,
channel got taken down.
no, Salagen, that's a different person.
Yeah,
You're talking.
Salagen. That's what I meant. He was the dude you were friends with. He made What If Goku Had HIV, right? And
Yeah,
his
he
channel
was
got
that guy. Yeah, I like that's what he's known for in community. It's like, oh, you remember that guy? It's like, no, and I just bring up his what if. It's like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that's
Because
why I knew
it
him
was
from.
funny because his what if and someone else's that got in like the Trash Taste podcast, and it was
Yeah,
hilarious. Those were the two what ifs like publicly people know about typically.
yeah, because it's the most ridiculous one. Nobody wants to. No casual person is gonna look at What If Goku turned Super Saiyan, blah blah blah. But what if Goku had HIV? Okay,
What if Goku
what
got
are y'all even talking
COVID? Does
about
he
right
survive
now?
it?
Yeah, what are y'all even talking about right now?
I mean,
So,
to be fair, Carthu, he was raising money for charity, and I'm happy about that. Like, that actually was a good thing he was doing.
oh, which Carthu What If got
No,
big?
Carthu did what if Goku got COVID,
Oh,
and he
okay, yeah,
described if he could survive it or not, which I kind of liked. It was more like a biology lesson in some sense.
yeah. I didn't know what the second one people knew about was.
No, that's the other one.
Yeah,
One that
I
people
didn't know. Yeah, that's good. That's
like.
good. He made money from it.
Well, he raised money for charity for it. I don't think he
Yeah.
monetized it.
No,
from
no,
what
I mean like
remember.
raise money, like
Yeah.
charity for it. Yeah, that's good. And I wonder how Saladin felt that he was the What If HIV guy. Like, did he just
He
like?
was okay with it. Like he
He was,
had other videos that were doing well at the time. The problem was he used a ton of clips similar to Mark, and he didn't
yeah,
go the route of getting MCN because him, me, and a lot of other people know how bad MCNs are unless
yeah.
you're like a big enough channel. Like
Well, it's
for
definitely
example, if like Anime Sage, like if he was double his sub count, I would consider it like being like the second host for his channel now.
yeah,
But since we're not there, it's not worth it because they take like a good percentage of it.
yeah. Saladin was one of the smaller channels. I think he had a little over 10,000 that got taken down. And, he obviously gave up because his channel got bombed. But yeah, that it was around that
Well,
time. I thought it was the Shueisha. Go ahead.
there was also a group project we were doing. We were doing like GT Abridged, and that also got taken down around the same time, and that also him a bit.
Yeah, and that's why it was around that time I thought about adding clips, and I was like, nah, not gonna happen. If I add clips, I'm gonna add a singular clip. It would not add up to nothing. So that's why from that day onward, I was like, no, not doing it. So that's why I didn't add clips to this day. And this recent strike I got from Shueisha made me not want to add like newer manga clips.
Well, I will say Japan specifically has been going after leakers, so I think they're more aware of like manga videos specifically than they used to be. If you get what I mean. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's like, because I think language doesn't translate as much over, so it's like, oh, they're using panels, well, we better take them down.
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause
the only
I
way I recommend
specifically
it.
tried using panels without audio. I specific like not audio. Specifically tried using panels without
Text.
text. Yeah. So I thought, oh, well, I won't get in trouble if I just just show panels. But nah, they took my channel down, and I don't know how other channels do it because Masako reviews, and he just basically from start to finish.
Masako has an MCN with Team 4-Star, whatever their MCN is, so he's protected. Same thing with Mark and a few other people I can name off the top of my head. Maybe Danny at
Yeah.
Geekdom. He might have an MCN. I don't know. I never asked him.
Yeah, because I was curious how these people are like. I was like, okay, mine got taken down, but I just saw someone flip through the whole thing and read it out loud like an audio. Like,
One of
what are
my
y'all looking
friends
for?
does that like for streams, and he still hasn't been taken down for some reason, which is really funny.
Yeah, so I'm not risking getting my channel taken down. I'm sticking to renders and maybe screenshots or whatever if I need to like explain why I'm doing something.
I will say, the way to use clips, like, have you seen like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for example?
Yeah.
So what JoJo's does is that they change like colors for certain scenes. So what I've kind of adapted to is doing that for like setting the emotion. And if you frame it enough, there's a lot of things you have to kind of go into. Like, you have to make sure you're not showing something simultaneously, but you can cut back and forth. Is that the best way to describe it? So, like,
Okay.
let me give this example. So, do you remember the scene where Mercenary Tao is like throwing a grenade like a Goku, like in original Dragon Ball? So in the anime, it's not shown like that directly. It's just Tao throwing. You cut back to a character, cut back to Tao, and whatnot. So what you do is you cut out the middle parts. It's just a seamless like one action, because that's not how anime was done back then.
Okay.
And it's different looking enough that it goes through basically.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah.
But that's like for older anime. Newer anime is a little different. Like, I had like a Mashle Lee review, and I did use like some like slow-mo clips and stuff, which there was like warping stuff, but kind of helps with the filter because like it's not a continuous clip. It's like broken because of like the coding and whatnot.
Yeah.
Hard to. I'm trying to describe to casual people though.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I feel like you're describing it well enough for casual people.
Okay.
Because I feel like you either you get it or you don't.
Like,
no way.
When people do like the wide like walking type of thing, it's kind of like that where it looks a little weird.
Okay.
As far as the animation goes, but that's intentional, and people are like, because I've seen complaints like when I edit for other people and do this. And like, even the creator has to tell them, it's like, if we didn't do this, we would have most likely been struck down if there wasn't enough editing, because that's what's required these days.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a couple years ago you could do it, but I think Team 4-Star's best example. Like, companies will go after you if you're making way too much money from their property, at least how they view it, even if it is fair use, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't think Team 4-Star is a very weird case where some bigwigs like them and some don't. So they're constantly getting struck, but they're also getting Dragon Ball deals like the voice act in Xenoverse 2. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So
well, they even voice acted in Kai before it got cut out. Like, they've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they fill in for voices for a lot of games, actually. If you actually check different ones, certain people come in.
I was just using that as like the best example.
Oh yeah, Xenoverse 2, they voiced all the custom characters, which was fun.
Yeah, so I always thought it was weird how they were like, we love you but we hate you at the same time. I never got it. That's why hopefully I know it's the goal, but hopefully I'll never like get big enough to get on some big wigs bad side because I don't want to deal with it.
I, I mean, I think that's gonna be an eventual outcome, possibly for doing stuff for Anime Stage channel, but I don't think we'll be as like in risk because we'll most likely will sign for like an MCN because they usually help with like sponsorships and whatnot. That's usually why if you see like a channel, if they're sponsored, they usually have like an MCN to help connect to like an advertiser or something. Typically,
Yeah.
because otherwise you just get a bunch of scams like in your email. It's like
I mean,
one guy
even
told me
bigger
about this like
channels get
exercise bike thing. It's like, did you read the language wasn't fully in English? I had to look back. It's like, oh yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like smaller channels get the most obvious scammers, but the bigger channels, you've seen a lot of like bigger channels get like hacked for crypto bros or whatever because they use like legit stuff, legit language, have legit contracts and whatnot, and
I kind of blame like AI getting better
oh,
is what
most
it is, and
definitely,
more like sophisticated. Like they're specifically trying to target a channel to hack it because it's a large channel.
yeah. So I feel like those scams are gonna happen no matter how big you are.
I mean, we saw that happen to Linus Tech Tips when you had like someone from their writers team clicked on something and it infected their whole network.
Yeah, that was crazy. Oh, it's
Like,
crazy. It's not safe for YouTubers, man. It really isn't.
I'm sure like Google or Alphabet, what company owns YouTube, I'm pretty sure they'll probably make like an authentication system where like you insert like a flash drive that's like YouTube authorized or whatever. Just
Yeah,
make it a
they
lot
wanna
more difficult.
authorize their workers because that's what I kind of see us as. They're like workers, but they don't want to authorize companies. So we know, so bigger YouTubers know not to get scammed in a
Well,
sense.
my thing is, I never viewed us as like workers. Can you think about this? Is Linus working for YouTube? Not really. Like he's literally his own company. He's just using the platform for his business.
Yeah, I feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like
Oh, think
smaller.
about it this way: like you've been to like a mall before, right?
Yeah,
So there's an owner who owns like the whole structure, and you have
yeah,
different individuals renting stuff out, and you could
yeah,
have like different people selling like the same thing, like clothes, for example. And there's
yeah,
different things that different people want to try on, but they might each of them are probably paying either the same rate or whatever they negotiate for, and that's how it feels like with CPM, RPMs. Basically, like that's the best analogy I can give to people, like doing YouTube. It's like you don't own the platform, even though the government says we're website owners now because of there was like a lawsuit involving like kids channels, which is really funny. So I
yeah,
can tell people I'm a website owner legally, which is really funny. But I think that's the best way to describe it.
yeah. I get what you're saying.
But I did want to ask, how do you like balance staying true to like Dragon Ball storyline, but also introducing like your changes to the scenario?
It's very hard. Uh, yeah. If I feel like I've done something before, I wouldn't want to do that storyline again. So I try to, make stuff as realistic as I possibly can. And I feel like what's the natural progression? And I feel like, oh, I haven't done this before, or oh, I feel like this could progress in a way that could feasibly happen. And I feel like power wise, there's only like so many ways you could take it. But I feel like character focus wise, which is how I stay like unique as possible, is where you can really branch off and do as many scenarios as you can and still stay true to it. You can basically do the same beats of the story, like fight wise, fight Frieza, fight Cell, fight Boo, whatever. But the character beats in between can change so drastically that it'll feel like a different story. That's basically what I do. I try to focus on the character beats, and I try to focus on the smaller interactions we never got to see.
Are there like any specific characters or like story arcs you enjoy when exploring making what if scenarios?
I enjoy. I feel like my favorite character in Dragon Ball is Gohan, so I like writing for him quite a bit. But yeah, I feel like Gohan and Goku are the two. Basically, anyone with a family dynamic are basically the ones I like to
I mean,
tap.
Frieza technically has a family. We wanna
Yeah,
count
but
it.
that's very iffy.
Does Cell have a family? Technically, if we're
That's
gonna push
that's
it
that's that's
that.
what I'm saying. Like anyone with a family dynamic is an interesting aspect. What if Cell was more loyal to Jiro? What if Cell saw 17 and 18 as a family, since you want to use that? What if King Cole treated his son more strictly? How would those things change the story? And I found those dynamics very interesting. Because when Akira got into Z, he had just had his son, which is why he made Gohan so crucial later on, and so on and so forth. Because he had a son, he saw how his son was growing, and it was very interesting.
I did want to ask, how much time and effort goes into like scripting and like producing like a single what if video for your channel?
It could take
Typically,
forever to write. It could take forever to write a script for a video.
I believe
Because,
that.
like I said, I don't like making scripts that I've done before. So if I feel like I've done this before, I'll be like, okay, let me take a step back and try this again. Or scrap the whole idea and just do a whole nother what if altogether. So a what if could flow like water and be done in an hour. Or what if could have so many road bumps that it could take a week just to finish something, just to like rescript or whatever, and like step away from it, come back to it, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, especially like what scenario you choose to do. Like, I'm doing a what if that removes like Dragon Balls from the story. So, like, because you make character death permanent, you now actually have to make that scene a lot more impactful than how it might have felt with like someone who has like Dragon Balls. Like, oh, you can just revive them, possibly. That'd be fine.
Yeah. With Dragon Balls, I feel like the biggest problem with the Dragon Balls, because this just came to my head. The biggest problems with the Dragon Balls is Akira made too many Dragon Balls after a while, so that's why the character deaths fell flat. Because you had the original Dragon Balls, can only be brought back once. I was like, okay, you got brought back, you can't do it again. And then you had which made Krillin's death on Namek that much more eventful, and I can understand why Goku was so angry, because Piccolo possibly died, which made the whole trip to Namek pointless, because Kami would have died. Krillin died for the second time, which means he couldn't have been wished back, and they don't know if they could have wished back with the Namekian Dragon Balls. And it was just a whole bunch of like, all right, now I'm scared. But now we found out that, Namekian Dragon Balls can wish you back even after you've been wished back by Shenron's Dragon Balls. And to the best of my knowledge, it's unknown how many times you can be wished back with the Namekian Dragon Balls. We know the Earth Dragon Balls have a limit, but we don't know what's the limit of Namekian Dragon Balls. So if we get into stick it, so we basically had at the bare minimum 2 extra lives, like we were in a video game. And then in Super, you get the Super Dragon Balls, which can grant any wish. So now we got 3 sets of Dragon Balls and basically no consequences. And not only that, since you're bringing up death, Whis can actually bring back people as he wishes as well. So yeah, death means nothing, but that's because Akira kept adding sets of Dragon Balls and like not making more rules to that set of Dragon Balls. Because originally, if you remember the OG Dragon Ball, the dragon could grant any wish he wanted. Like off rip, that's what he was introduced as. Any wish can be granted. But then Z, Akira was all like, okay, that could be a problem. Okay, we're gonna have to make some rules to these wishes. And if he was gonna make rules to the wishes, he should have made the rules like the same. So if you get wish back with one set of Dragon Balls, you can't get wish back with another set. That's one way he could have like made death a little more permanent. But yeah, I just went on a ramble sesh and oh man, I feel like Dragon Ball can work without Dragon Balls, funny enough. But it would take a lot of legwork to do it. A lot of legwork and a lot of different mindset. Because, like you said, death is permanent. But even the Z fighters didn't treat death as permanent. Because when Goku first died, Piccolo was bragging to Raditz for whatever reason. He'll be back. Don't worry about it. And I feel like if people had that mindset, if people lost that mindset, they would tackle the stories very differently. So yeah, sounds like a very.
I guess you could say it became an integral part, considering he basically started beef with the Saiyans over that.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, what do you think makes a good thumbnail for like what if content?
I don't know. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
I truly don't. Someone could have the ugliest thumbnail in the world and like get a bunch
You know
of.
what? That is true because I've seen videos that still get massive views, and I see videos that have great thumbnails that don't get anything.
Yeah, and I've tried to do different thumbnails, but they build up no traction. So I'm at the point I was like, all right, time to go back to the drawing board and just do the thumbnails I've always been doing. You know, because I don't know what's a good thumbnail and what's not.
Well, I think for your channel, it's like your channel's recognized for that type of thumbnail at that point. It's like if you see like a Salad Saiyan thumbnail or certain people who have like a standard, it feels like that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So I tried experimenting with my thumbnails a little bit, and then I quickly gave up. So don't know what makes a good thumbnail.
Well, I guess that's something you could keep learning always. Like, feel like at that same time, YouTube's just so random sometimes.
Of course.
I did want to ask, before like you get into writing, like how much further like the research department do you put in, like before like starting a scenario typically?
For a starting scenario, I love doing bullet points before I write out the whole story, see what happens. I'll be like, okay, this happened, this happened. Let's write down a quick summary, quick bullet points. And then, like you said, I do fact check. It's like, okay, how strong was this person? Did this person ever train this way? Did this person ever interact this way? Are there any supplementary materials that expanded someone's character, even if it's non-canon? Like, how do other people or other forms of media see the character? So yeah, I do quite a bit of research. I just look up to see what happens.
I know we talked a little bit about this earlier, but have you like received like surprising, really unexpected reactions like from your viewers for your what if scenarios?
Nah, my weather scenarios are very straightforward. There's nothing too crazy for my weather scenarios. The only reactions I get is, like I said, people say I don't know what I'm talking about, and then I could show people, because you get into like slight debates in your comment. I could show people the exact page and chapter I got information from, and they'll still say I'm wrong after reading it. And I know literature, along with everything in his life, is how you interpret certain things. But some things are cutthroat. You know what I mean? That's
Oh
like
yeah.
asking if Goku did the Kaioken times 20 against Frieza. And someone says, I mean, Goku has the Kaioken and the Kaioken times 2. So maybe the Kaioken times 2 is actually times 4 and the Kaioken is times. You know what I mean? Like, people do insane leaps in logic because they don't want to be wrong about something. And I
But I
don't
will
know
say
whether
another thing is like there's like what people like to call visisms because Viz when they translate the manga, there's a lot of weird stuff
and
that
and,
they
and,
like
the,
to
and
throw
the
in.
crazy thing about Visism is, even though Viz can interpret stuff kind of wrong, I feel like fan manga also interprets stuff basically the same way, because a lot of people who argue about Visisms, most of the Visisms, I know totally that mark is a big, like, translation should be beat for beat the same. But I feel like some Visisms are so similar that, it's hardly recognizable. And some of the fan translations are only used to prove that they're right. I think one of the biggest arguments people use in the Dragon Ball community is Kid Buu being universal, and they use the fan translation of Goku saying the whole universe would go poof if Kid Buu is left to roam, but Viz said, only like the galaxy or something would be destroyed, or we'd be in trouble if we let Kid Buu go. So I feel like, I believe totally not Mark has problems with it, but I also believe most people just want to win an argument, which is why they use like fan translations over the official Viz media. Because nobody wants to be proven wrong, because people equate being proven wrong to being stupid, if that makes sense.
I mean, I have problems with Viz, but I wouldn't like use it like in a debate sense because I've never been that type of person. It's more that if like characters aren't staying as they should be, because that's something that the original like Z dub had issues with. And like, yes, the
Yeah, Z
manga's
Dub
been
had
better,
issues, but
but yeah.
what examples do you have for the Viz manga, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I was saying the manga's better. I was just saying like in context of that, because that's partly where inspiration comes from. Because some stuff are like taken from like the dub or something.
Yeah.
But it's mostly like transformations because fans came up with them. They called it something. It's like, sure, we'll use that. It's like, I don't see that as much a big deal. I know some people like original names for stuff, but it's like, it's whatever. That's not as big of a deal to me.
Yeah, I don't see that being a big
It's kind of
deal.
like when the One Piece dub, like even at Funimation, they had to call Zoro Zolo for a little bit because they were still worried about copyright. But
No,
once
they still do
Zoro
that in the
entered
manga.
public domain, like they didn't have to worry about it anymore.
They still do that in the manga. I think only fan translations call him Zoro.
Oh, as far as the manga goes, I think they kept it, but as far as the English dub, they changed
Yeah,
it
English dub they changed it to Zoro, but yeah, the manga kept him as Zolo. That's why you see
because
some One Piece fans who only read the manga call Zoro Zolo, because
well,
to this day.
the thing is, Funimation originally, like when they were airing on Toonami, that which I like to call the Toonami dub, which was censored at the time, they still did use Zolo until they started like doing like their own stuff, basically on streaming, like DVD releases. They did uncut and change stuff. So at least
Yeah,
from what I remember.
yeah. The licensing for characters is very weird, so I wouldn't have been surprised if they kept them Zolo, but I'm glad they changed it back to Zoro and ironed some stuff out.
I also think the dub's really interesting with name changes because, like, do you know the character like Hody from uh, from Fishman Island arc?
Yeah,
Right.
Hody Jones.
So in the dub, they call him Hordy, and people thought it was crazy when I said that. But when I showed them the clip, it's like, yeah, that's what he's called for some reason,
Yeah,
and it's
weird.
just there. Like, I guess they thought it'd sound sharper, which I'm okay with Hordy, but Hody's actually his name, which is really funny.
Yeah, I feel like there's always a reason why something is changed, but also I'm not gonna look up the reason because back when stuff like that first happened, I kind of wanted to look up the reason. I was kind of interested in the reason, and if the reason pops up in like a YouTube short or something, I'll be like, "Oh, that's a cool fun fact." I'll keep tucked away, but I'm not gonna be looking out for the reason, if that makes sense. So why they called him Hordy instead of Hody, don't know. Probably have a reason, and they probably didn't just do it because they like the name better.
It was made there's some random pirate character named Hody. It's out there. It's
Yeah.
copyrighted. We don't know about it.
Yeah, it's
For
so
some
insane.
But honestly, I like to wrap things up here. Is there anything you want to promote and stuff before we close off?
Nothing I really got to promote. I just finished What If Future Gohan Trained with King Kai, and that just popped up on my channel. If anyone who watched this and made it to the end want to check it out.
Nice having you on. Hopefully, we'll collab in the future here. But for now, this has been Drew from What If Universe, and always remembering What If Universe are endless possibilities. And I'll see you in the next interview or whatever else you're listening to on this channel. So, see ya.